Welcome to the fifth episode of the Drop the Leash podcast. We got Coach Eric and Coach Jay here, and as usual, Coach Clinton. We got to thank our sponsors first: Canada College, great things happen here; North Escapes Landscaping, and the Tresnack family. Fox and the Fiddle Pub, located at 112 Spencer Avenue. Join the NFC men's team after every home game at our home of the fifth quarter. Kenny Upole North Bay, your self-serve auto parts store located at 412 Burgess Road, North Bay. DeMarco Lucenti Insurance Brokers, located at 693 Castle Street. Call Coach Eric or Krista for your home auto, commercial, and business needs, 705-474-2420. And also A&S Towing, located at 1345 Franklin Street, North Bay. Call 705-497-8565 for all your towing needs. Right on, guys. Jay, thanks for being here. Eric, your first time, both of you guys. Let's start off with the... Good to be back again. Let's start off with the Bantams. How'd you guys make out, and what happened? And
we played another team that was 4-0, the Toronto Junior Argos. We dropped that one 22-0. I don't know. The defense did well. They played. I'll speak about the defense. They played well up till the 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It was 7-0. Really, I got to give a shout out to that defensive line. Those four kids on that line, I tell you, well, there's more than four, but Parker and Wes and Gage, Colin, Cole, all those kids playing that D line, they've been playing really well all season. The defense has been doing outstanding work. I'll let Coach Clinton talk about the offense.
We'll talk about the offense.
The only stat that's missing for that defense is points. They've accumulated a lot of stats in all other aspects of the game: forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, interceptions, tackles for losses, you name it, they've done it. Just missing points, and they're ready to go get some points hopefully this week.
Yeah, he almost had points.
He was close.
Yeah. Was that Wes?
Yeah, I trained him to jump on fumbles instead of pick them up, and had he picked it up, he would have walked into the end zone. There was nobody around him.
He did exactly what he was supposed to do.
Yeah.
He grabbed the ball, but it was the last play of the half, and instead of running and making that dash for the end zone, he did exactly what he was trained to do. He grabbed it. He saw a couple competitors coming at him. He took a knee just to retain possession, but he didn't know that he could have just made a hero play. Yeah.
Then we would have went into the half tied 7-7, but hey, he did what he was supposed to. So
in Bantam football, teach them to roll on the fumbles. Don't jump on them.
Yeah.
Because when somebody jumps on top of you, that's where you get the wind knocked out of you. That hurts.
Yeah.
And as they get older, picking the fumble up will become easier, but just noticing it and getting on top of it, the turnover is a turnover. So
yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's the important part.
Yeah.
So what happened on offense?
On offense, we sputtered. It's the second week in a row that I feel that the offense didn't perform very admirably. They were misfiring. It's strange in practice. All of their crossing routes, all their runs looked great, crisp, clean. When they got out in the field, maybe it's because we had players fall out of the game because of attrition. That's what I call it today. And you always have subs in who aren't really familiar with the position as intimately as the starters. But injuries pile up. It's that time of the season. I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but they just didn't produce properly. And we had some guys who did very well. I'll give them a couple quick shout-outs. Nader, the center, got hurt. And Morgan Trousdale, he went in, didn't miss a snap. And he was really good, really precise with that quarterback. That's a really good relationship that he has. One of our receivers, Owen Landry, called hands because he's got an excellent way of just grabbing that ball, wheeling it in. He made some really good plays. Didn't make a whole lot of yardage, but we got him subbed in as a third-string quarterback at the end. And he was running the offense pretty good. We threw him to the wolves, and like a Spartan, he was fighting them off. But, that Toronto team, they're tough. They didn't give up anything. They were tackling with precision. We would run, and they would, the first player would make the play, take him down. We didn't make much after contact, and they really did put on a clinic, a good defensive clinic. It was really a defensive match. Coach Eric's got his guys fine-tuned, And when an offense sputters, it really does make their job so much harder because they don't give the defense time to breathe, time to rest, time to relax, time to get just hydrated. But the quarterbacks rotated in and out. They had injuries. Peyton had a hand injury, and Dane had a rib injury he sustained the game before, so they were kind of rotating back in and out. Things weren't clicking. We were missing our big number one wide receiver. He's tall, very athletic, and you miss those key positions when you have those matchups.
Hey, like I said, it's when a football team starts 3-0, especially for kids, they automatically assume they've already done everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to sustain that, and it's hard to continue coaching them at that age because they assume they already know what they're doing. It's like, well, maybe the competition wasn't that great yet. Maybe you got to keep working, right? Because the teams that are losing are still working.
Yeah, we're up against the top 2 seeded teams, and before
top 3 now.
Top 3 now. This weekend.
So
yeah, it's gonna be tough. There's no gimmies. You had your weak teams. You faced them. You got to show off a little flash and flare in front of them, and now, even the linemen are up against these guys who are strong and quick and athletic and well trained. And when you get that kind of synergy, they can really make a mess of your offense. These guys are breaking through. They were coming off the edge hard and fast, and they would that pressure. If you're not ready for it, you can just break everything. And we crashed against the rocks and broke, and that's kind of unfortunate.
I can tell you though, the York Lions coming this weekend. I'll tell you, if that offense starts clicking again, they're in trouble. But if we get back to those first 3 games form out on offense with the defense getting better every week, I don't know. York Lions don't stand a chance as far as I'm concerned.
That's good. You just gotta prepare.
Well, the offense is good. The coaches have these very well layered plays. Everything's gonna function. They just have to execute. And that's really what we're doing.
And you guys are gonna have 25 players this game to give York no excuse to bash the club, right?
We'll have
easily
45 to 50 players.
Yeah.
We'll suit some of our bigger kids up for senior varsity so that never happens again.
Yeah.
That was kind of a cheap shot by York to get that win that way.
Yeah, we're going to make sure that we do a hashtag by the end of the season on that because that's crazy. I've never, ever heard that.
Didn't complain to start the game, right?
Listen, I know Mark covered this thoroughly in the last podcast.
We're trying to rile you up. We're trying to get you going.
Like, if it's such as, if it's a safety issue and the league is hard pressed on it, that it's a number of 25 and it's a hard fast rule and doesn't matter if it's 24 or 20, if 25 is the hard floor, then you know what, if a team shows up with 24 guys, the game shouldn't be played. If it's such a concern for player safety, it shouldn't be, it's not like we went down and used, we have that 10-03 age rule. Not like we went down and used 12-03s or something to gain an advantage. Using one less guy than 25 is not an advantage for us. It's a distinct disadvantage. So, that sort of stuff should have been taken care of right away. If not, then it should, the outcome of the game should stand. So, you know what? Hopefully the way the playoffs work for us, where it breaks up from the top and bottom. I hope we get another shot at York. Our kids are very excited to try and get another chance at them this year. So, if Karma has any,
hey, you're going to, and just so you know, I don't have a problem sending up some JVs so that you have shoulder pads and pants on.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean? Like I don't have a problem doing that. We have 35 kids. If we can pull a couple from you, you can pull a couple from us. Everybody has the numbers. Because I'm in the same boat. I'm sick of hearing about safety, right? The kids got cut 2 games this season because of safety.
Yeah.
They can only play 6 regular season games and 2 exhibition. Your kids can do that math. That doesn't make sense, right? 6 + 2 = 8. My wife works in the profession of healthcare. Do you understand how mind-boggling that is to somebody in healthcare? I got a doctor's son on my team, and I hope she hears this because 6 + 2 = 8 no matter which way you look at it.
Yeah. Just because you deem it an exhibition game
Doesn't make it
doesn't
more or
mean
less
the
safe.
contact doesn't happen, doesn't mean the hits don't happen, doesn't mean the risk of injury is any less. It's not a controlled scrimmage where nobody's going to the ground. We're keeping blowing the whistle very early.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's a game with officials. It's no different than a game. So just to for them to kind of cover their butts with the with the illusion of it's only an exhibition game or 2 or 3.
But it's not just an exhibition game. It has consequence.
It has consequence.
That if it were
It
just an
means
exhibition
something.
game that didn't mean anything,
it can come into if there's
if
tiebreakers.
there's a tiebreaker,
So it's just them dancing around the rules of officially having a 6-game season. It's
So we all know that part, right? But then they throw out that word safety like it covers their actions. That word safety isn't used in the context it should be. It's used for them, it's basically used to win an argument, right? They hope you're going to stop it. Oh, safety. It's because of safety. Okay, well, I also want to know if any of you guys have looked at how the playoffs work.
yeah.
Because, it comes
We had
down to that.
abacus. We had some calculus students come out.
I sent our playoff thing away to NASA. They're trying to figure it out at the present moment.
Well, put it this way. In a world where everybody gets a trophy, like we've talked about before, everybody is going to play an extended amount of playoff games, right? The loser
everybody's
plays.
guaranteed one.
Everyone's
Right?
guaranteed
Everybody's
one,
guaranteed one.
but it looks like everybody's going to get 2 or 3.
We won't have to
Because if you lose, you drop into the losers tier division, then you play another game. Well, how does that work?
That's not the way I read ours.
That doesn't happen in Bantam either.
So either
the way
way,
I perceive it is it basically splits like top to bottom, like top half, bottom half, and then it's a playoff there. It's quarterfinals, semis, finals.
Okay.
They split our divisions a little bit, but then they dropped 2 teams from AAA down.
so
I saw that too.
Sorry. Yeah, so the top 2 go bump up,
2 AA teams go play, and AAA.
and 2
Bracket.
AAA come down.
so how does that work
Bottom triple
for
It's
safety?
So I don't know. I haven't figured.
Like
Like I said, Neil
Every
deGrasse
time
Tyson
you read
did return my email, but
just send me an email and
brackets.
tell me when I play.
Yeah.
Tell me
Yeah.
when and where I play, and
Every time I read that structure, you come up with something different.
Well, here's the other thing,
it
right?
doesn't distinguish between AA and AAA in a lot of the explanations.
No.
That's correct, right? So not only
Championship
that,
A, B, C, and D in our.
Yeah, same with ours, ABCD.
so how does that work? Because that's where I say if you want to throw the word safety around so that it ends arguments, because nobody wants to argue safety. Oh, it's safety? Okay, no. If nobody wants to argue that and they just use that word to win their arguments as a league, then why is everybody getting a playoff game? We had 1 team drop out of our division. So that means we're probably going to play 2 playoff games minimum. Because everybody's supposed to make the playoffs and it changes the tiers, right? So, this team is out, so this team gets a bye. You got to play this week, and then the winner of this game automatically plays the next game because that's the way they had it set up. It's dumb. And now you're talking about
sugarcoat it.
now you're talking about 6 + 2 + 1. So you've limited the regular season games. You've added a playoff game automatically. Everybody gets 1, right? At
You're
least.
playing anywhere between 9 and 11 games now, right? Whereas they really wanted to cap it a lot lower than that because then they say, the average high school season is 8 games. Like, average teams will play 8, but even, that's where they came up with that number either because maybe
Seems like
in
an
South
arbitrary
Korea,
number.
with our 3-team league here, we're not playing 8 games.
No,
in high
not
school.
anymore. When it was
Not
4
even-
or 5 teams, you were playing 8
and
regular
that was if
season.
you went 8 games would be like if you went all the way and maybe went to NASA, because we've always played 6 regular season NBA games, and then you got to win if you win a semifinal and a final, and then go to NASA.
Yeah.
That's how the numbers the games would get up, but
You're always going to have the 1 or 2 teams that are the exception because they're obviously going to do better than the rest, right? But that could change from season to season. But, man, I've sat in on some of these video calls on behalf of our JV team, and nothing gets accomplished. And whenever they don't want to answer a question, it's always safety. I can't stress how much I hate that word, right?
But what you have to do though is you have to ask them to explain how it's making my players safe. Because just tell me one explanation of how is this rule making my players safe.
And
Just
you know what?
explain it to me.
Here's how the response comes, Jay. And I'm sure you'll get one at some point from them on behalf of whatever took place at the York game. But I agree with you. If they saw how many players there were before the games, the referees didn't say anything, The coaches didn't say anything. They were probably drooling, thinking they're going to have an easy win, and they didn't, right? And then it all backfired. So the only way to get a win after that was to argue after the fact, right? So what the league's going to do is they're going to say, well, we're going to talk about it. We don't have time at the moment because we're in season. We'll let you know after the season why we chose to do this, and maybe we can make things different. That's exactly how they rebuttal those remarks, right? They don't have an answer. It's terribly run. It's argues like they argue that safety point drives me crazy because that's a word that football is dealing with in regards to gaining new players and gaining confidence in parents is safety.
Well, we're fighting the battle, right?
Yeah.
We're fighting the concussion battle. We're fighting, contact sport in general are almost frowned upon nowadays. Like, and you're probably at the worst end of it, Eric, with the Bantams and maybe even in the youth league because you know what it's like with kids nowadays. They're not allowed to do anything like school, lunch hour at school, recess, gym class. There's absolutely nothing where there's any sort of physical contact in schools anymore, right? Everything is physical contact's absolutely discouraged.
Yeah.
And then you're getting these kids out to football and say, okay, I need you to knock that guy on the ground. Well, I'm not allowed to touch him.
Yeah, you're definitely reprogramming.
I've never roughed house in my life. I've never played tackle football at recess or my lunch hour, which we used to do when we were kids all the time.
And the bigger kids are even worse.
Yeah.
The bigger kids are always told, hey, you're bigger than everybody else. You got to be more careful.
More restrained.
Yeah. So,
more careful.
It's exactly
Now
why they
I'm-
need football.
Now I'm
he's
the
trying to
opposite.
reprogram.
You're bigger than everybody else. Move them.
Yeah.
Works out. So our JV team, big step forward. And last year I mentioned his name, and I mention it again. Actually, both their names, Jacob Dubois and Riley O'Byrne. Man, amazing. Riley switched from running back to linebacker, which I did back in the day. And if you can't get a football player on offense to step forward and attack, step backward and wait, then you got to put them on defense to make them step forward, right? Same on defense. If you can't get a defensive player to step forward in attack, right, they're always stepping back.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get them a spot on offense because they're going to block better. They're going to be more patient. Requires a little bit more patience for a play to develop. Defense, you got one job. You got to go 100% attack the ball. So we had some guys switch some positions, and they did great. They just outstanding. Riley O'Byrne got our player of the game, hardest worker, and stepped in. He was in the backfield all day, made a mess. Clarington didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do. They won. I feel they won at the last play of the game. It was 3rd and long, and what had happened is they had an injury timeout, and the coaches went into the huddle, which was down on our end, and I was arguing with the referees saying, hey, what the hell's going on? You're not allowed to coach during an injury, right? They had paramedics there for their trainers, so they go out in the huddle, whatnot, and I'm never going to say it was one play, but it was one play. They got to coach him up for about 10 minutes in that huddle, and I couldn't get the referee's attention. They wanted nothing to do with it, And the coach even came up to me after the game. He goes, hey, man, if you want to file a complaint with the league about the referees, I said, I'm not doing that. You're a coach. You're not allowed to do that. I wasn't allowed to go into the huddle. You're not allowed to go into the huddle and coach him up for that last play just to get a couple yards, So they lost on that last play. It was tough, but it was a huge improvement, 13-12. Which is a difference of about 30 points from the previous game.
It is. Yeah.
So massive improvement. And that was on the road too, right?
Yeah.
We played them at home and lost 30 or 40 something to 6 or 7. I can't remember.
Any other outstanding?
Jacob Dubois.
Yeah, I know Jacob.
Jacob, he got robbed. Somebody stripped the ball off him, but other than that, he played a great game on offensive line. He's one of our better offensive line. He's really improving that part of his game. But by the time you get him, man, I hope you run a fullback offense because that's where he's got to be. He's got legs on him. Oh my god,
he's a tank with a Ferrari engine.
Yeah,
he really is.
Yeah, either that or just throw him at some tailback. I mean, if you need that extra yard or two, don't do a quarterback sneak. You'll have that kid. Our receivers in our passing game, Justin Marietti, man, I didn't get a stats sheet after the game. In JV, it's not mandatory to do stats, but I'll watch the film. I got to say he's got to be about 100 yards rushing and 200 passing.
That's impressive.
I don't know if that's the number, but that's what it looked like. They were moving the ball very well. Defense, we had a couple breakdowns. Defensive backs are going to be getting some work in tonight. Linebackers, there's a couple that need some work. But other than that, it was a really good game. Defensive line was in the backfield all day. They could not stop. I think they might have had a one play that was more than 20 yards against us. Maybe one. And that's being pretty nice. So other than that, the guys played awesome.
Yeah.
So
well, Eric's defense just tore this really good Argos offense up. They were in the backfield just doing damage all the time. There's always some white shirt in amongst the blue, and they were just wreaking havoc.
Yeah, the last couple of weeks, the scores don't reflect the defensive play.
Oh no, I said that on our first and second podcast. That I said it last week too. Football scores don't reflect the game at all.
Well, for the record, the second score in our last game was my fault because I made a substitution. I was short a DB, and the quarterback happened to see it. He happened to pick it out at the Bantam level. The quarterback sees it, throws it to a wide receiver standing out there by himself. So I was short. I was 11 guys instead of 12. I was missing that one corner. So, I mean, that one, you take that off the score because that's not on the defense at all. And then the last score again, I'm taking shots. I'm taking as many blitzes as I can to try to get that ball back to get our offense another chance. And, that's just what happens. You take chances. Sometimes you pay.
Yeah.
And they're a really good team all around. So
yeah.
Offense, defense. They weren't going to give us anything. Everything had to be earned. So.
Well, that's good. That's a good football match then.
That is a good football match.
Right? Ours was like that. It was back and forth. Then they just, actually, one of the plays that came down to is we had our punter. And a couple snaps before the snap was high. And we were on our 6-7 yard line. And I said, if the punt goes over your head, take a knee in the end zone. Right? Well, he caught the snap and he thought he was in the end zone. He took a knee at the 1.
Oh.
Ouch.
Yeah. And listen to this, okay? So then our defense.
Yeah, that puts you in a bad spot.
Our defense stops them. They lose 4 yards. Right? Now it's 3rd down and 6 or 7. At 6 or 7 yard line, 8 yard line. And one of our defensive backs gets a penalty for shoving a player. So now they get to start the half yard line. It wasn't until the 4th down that they scored. Yeah. So they actually stopped them, and just that one got in. So that was killer also. But we're gonna fix that. We're gonna fix that, and we'll go next week, and hopefully we're getting our W this week. And like I said, every podcast, it's not about how you start; it's how you finish, right? So we've seen teams go 16-0 all the way to the Super Bowl, and then lose the Super Bowl. It's not about how you start; it's how you finish. So that's the important part. So what's the highlights of the SVJ?
Well, highlights, I'm not sure how many highlights there were, but we took one on the chin this week. And you know what? We're fighting. We have a thin roster every week, partially due to the number of guys we have, and partially due to that we have to sit 5 19-year-old players every week. So, we go in every week with 26, 27 guys when we should be above 30, but, that's the hand we're dealt. So, we went down to Quinty, very good team, very good organization. I will say that they were very well coached and, just a class act all the way. Even their players, even right from the get-go when, the game was still close, their guys are helping our guys up off the ground, our guys are helping their guys. They have a lot of yes sir, no sir. Every time you have interactions with their players. So really, really top notch. And when they got up, they emptied the bench. So really, hats off to them. They're a very good football team. They're very well coached. System's really good. They have some really speedy athletes at key positions. So, what didn't help us is, we had one quarterback in concussion protocol right now, and our other quarterback went down second play of the game, our second offensive play of the game. So he was done for the day. Fisher Bills ended up moving into quarterback, who was normally our emergency quarterback. He's our number 3. He knows the offense, but he's had minimal to no reps all year long. So, he was put in an unfair position. And his backup that went into the running back spot is his brother, who's still injured. So, now we're moving a guy into the backfield. We're rotating guys through who haven't had any reps there. We're
just warm bodies. Can you carry this thing?
So, we had an offensive lineman in the backfield at the time. Zed Fortin was back there for all. Had a couple of decent carries, but really it was unfair for a lot of these kids thrust into a position where they're not used to playing and they haven't had many reps, and you're going against an elite team. So a lot of bad things lining up. But our defense battled hard again. They were on a short field the whole game. Our passing game struggled, obviously, with so many moving parts, and so they started getting 8, 9, 10 guys in the box, and it was just not a lot of room for us. And it was just one of those games where I told the kids afterwards, I said, just this is one where it's over, it's done, put it away. We're not even gonna break up the film for this one. Just forget about it. And now we eyes on to we have the Junior Argos this week, who have basically the same record as us. So it's a tough game for us. We'll see at practice tonight. Our other quarterback may start to practice, but I still think he's a couple weeks away from playing. So we've got to shift some things around, and now we have to kind of garner our offense into the skill set of the guys that we have, and so changes are afoot, obviously. And the good thing is the Argos will probably see an offense that we haven't put on film yet this year. So, the element of surprise will be there. But, our kids battle hard, and, it was just a tough spot to be in. It was just, a domino effect of things going wrong. Every time something went wrong, every time a kid goes down, you're moving 3 guys to, somebody's got to take his spot, and then somebody's got to take the guy's spot who took his spot, and then somebody's got to take his spot, and it's tough. So, you know what?
We feel your pain on the offense and the Bantam. That's what you have to do. You got to step up.
We're looking to get healthy in a couple of weeks once the playoffs start, and hopefully go from there. And you know what? It's the way it's set up. Once the playoffs start, you're kind of going to be in with a group of teams that are on your level.
Yep.
So you know what? We'll throw our hat in the ring with everybody else. I like our chances with the teams that are around us in the standings. York's a game ahead of us, but we'd like another shot at them. So you know what?
You'll get it.
Yeah. We'll be there. We'll be battling in the end, and you know what? We'll have an opportunity. We all get an opportunity to play for a trophy, so we'll do our best.
And our standings are going to be interesting this week too, because
the
3 teams at 3 and 2, us, Peel, and York. We play York, and Peel plays Junior Argos, who are undefeated. So whoever comes out of this week with a win ends up in 3rd place.
It's going to be very interesting too to see once the other division, the South Division, comes in, stuff, because I obviously peek at the standings of the other side, and there's a couple teams that are haven't won yet, or there's a couple teams with 1 win, so it's going to be very jarbled and jumbled to see how once they separate, where we sit.
Yeah.
And
my goal always is when we start getting closer to playoffs or the games is to have that one home playoff game.
You'd like to have at least one.
I don't want to go see these teams on the south, wherever they are, Niagara. Like, those are long trips. I want them to have to come here if they can. But
hey, you know what? You're on the executive, both of you. I'm not. But speaking from the club perspective, we don't want to have to travel the first playoff game. Well, that's expensive.
The cost too behind it is a lot of money. So we definitely want to have the teams coming here. So this weekend is a pretty important game at our level.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can get a win on the Lions and the Junior Argos do what they do against Peel, then we'll sit in 3rd in our side, and then it just depends on what happens in the South.
Yeah. We're looking like my best prediction for the rest. Like we should end this season 2-4, and in essence we should be 4-2.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you know what? That's why you play the games. We lost a game. Our first game, we lost a game we should have won. That's on us. We didn't play well enough to win. And then we obviously lost the York game, due to external reasons. But I mean, we're not gonna complain about it. We're just gonna show up, and you know what? We'll battle it out for the end and try and take a championship home at the end of the year.
Surprise a couple teams.
Yeah.
Everybody gets that 2 weeks between the regular season and the first playoff game. Will be nice to have a little bit of a break to get some kids back that are on the kind of borderline of whether they're going to be back this week or have to take a couple more weeks.
I didn't think there was a gap in the schedule. Like
I thought there was 2.
I
Is
think
there
there's
not 2
1
weeks?
week,
because we play.
Oh,
What's the date today?
Their bye week was different from ours.
Oh, okay.
They had a bye week the first week.
Oh,
Our
okay.
bye week is next week. And
Yeah,
then
so
we
playoffs
play
start
this
the
weekend.
23rd.
Ours
Yeah.
are consecutive. We
Oh,
have
okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, we have a
Because
bye
today
coming up.
is the
That could be why you end up with 2 games.
today's the
Just-
5th, right?
yeah.
So it's 4th or so the 9th is next is Saturday.
And
Saturday
today's the
9th?
6th. Yeah,
Saturday's
today's
the
the
9th.
6th.
Yeah, Saturday's the 9th.
Saturday's the 9th.
So that we play the 9th, and then we play the 16th, and then the quarterfinals start the 23rd. So
Oh, okay.
we're consecutive.
Yeah,
We had our bye week 1, which is
Yeah, everybody gets a bye week at the end of this week at the Bantam level,
Okay.
so we're 2 weeks off before we hit the playoffs.
yeah.
Hopefully, they get out who we are playing in that first week
Yeah.
before we start the
You
first
should
week
in
of
theory, and then you
practice.
get
Yeah.
get the game plan for that
Yeah.
playoff game. And
And get film because it seems like the coaches at the Bantam level seem pretty friendly with film, which I love.
yeah, it's good. It's,
I've got 3 games on the lines.
Yeah.
3,
Yeah.
well, 1 game, 2 different angles, and then another game. That
It's
they played,
it's
so.
it's not advantageous for any coach at any level in summer ball to not want to trade film,
Oh, I agree.
right? Because some point you're going to need that favor back,
Yeah.
right? Second, you may be a coach for a university who's looking for a clip of a couple kids, right? And then your kids don't understand this, but playing the way they have and having to go through the adversity they're going through. There was a coach at Michigan Tech that told me, he said, never put out bad film, right? When they're playing the way they are, they have no bad film.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're going to see they're tired. They're going to see that they work through it. And those are the kids they're going to want. You know, when they look at our film and they see a kid who fakes an injury and wants to be out one series and then plays the next series, that's bad film. That's terrible film, right? They don't want to see that.
well, you know what? There's just nowadays there's just too much interaction with everybody, right? Especially with social media and
Well, here's the thing, though. Before, coaches used to be open to having kids send them film. They don't want to see the highlights.
No.
They want to see the low points,
that's right.
right? They want to see the whole thing. So this day and age, all coaches should be sharing film.
No.
Whether they want to or not.
It's just my
Yeah.
point was
Yeah.
that it's so easy to communicate nowadays
Yeah.
that you can send the highlight reel to the world, and it takes me 2 seconds to look at let's say Canadian University, look at a Canadian University's website, or even if I'm a university coach and I say, hey, I got this kid from North Bay, we'll just punch up. Oh, West Garth Trojans. Oh, this is their head coach. This is their OC. This is their DC. 2 seconds to find somebody on social media, send them a message, say, hey, I'm looking at this kid. What can you tell me?
Yeah.
You know, I've had a couple of calls this summer about different kids. About Bishop's coach was going to come through and he ended up not being able to make it. So he said, hey, can you give me a breakdown of these couple of kids? You know, the good, the bad, the ugly kind of thing. And you know what? There's just too much communication nowadays where it's not coaches just sitting there with a beta tape plugging it in, saying, "Oh, well, this is all the information we have on the kid."
Yeah.
Right now, it's so easy. I mean, you punch the kid's name in the computer. All these kids put up highlight stuff, and so it's
all on
very
Instagram.
and again, you see the good and the bad, right? So kids who are village idiots on social media, and some of that stuff they don't understand that when a university coach looks at this stuff and he's got 3 players that he's recruiting for. Pick a position. Let's say kicker, something generic, right? And he's got all the talent level are equal. You got one kid who's good student, pretty clean cut, not a huge social media presence. Then you got another kid who's doing God knows what on social media on weekends and evenings, and or you got another kid where his grades aren't good, but maybe he's clean on social media. Everything comes into effect.
Yeah.
If I'm going to have a hard time keeping you academically eligible to play, and the other kid is a good student, well, that strikes you off the list. And if you're just a village idiot in life, and the other kid's pretty reserved and whatnot, well, the decisions are easy.
Yeah.
Coaches don't want to be babysitters, especially at that level, right?
Yeah.
Like they have enough on their plate. They've got 90-man rosters to deal with. Never mind the 40s we're dealing with, and all kinds of other things. So you know what?
It's not just coaches either. I mean, kids that are applying for jobs. What do you think?
Well, yeah.
Players
I
are
mean,
the
it
first
goes to
place they
everything.
look
Like
for.
we're talking coaches because we're on
Yeah,
football
yeah,
podcast,
of course.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's we always something we always talked about, especially at the high school level, because you have the kids for a longer period, right? You have them for a longer season. You have them for multiple years, and they come through in 4 or 5 years of high school. It's like, guys, like, if you can succeed on the football field, you can succeed in life. And I've coached with many coaches and coaches that I've played for, they all say the same thing. Football's the greatest metaphor for life because there are so many things that you can learn on a football field, that apply to your everyday life. Pushing through times that are, we talk about adversity. We talk about pushing through when you want to quit. Maybe you're a little sore. Maybe you're a little tired. Hey, football, it was a good Bill Parcells quote. It was like, football gives you a vision of the guys who you want to hang around with in your life. You want around you because when the game gets tough and you got, the guys like you talked about who want to bail, if they bail on you on the football field, they're probably going to bail on you when something gets tough.
Yeah.
In everyday life. So, you know what? It's football's a great, people used to say,
like a
football builds character, right? I think football reveals character, right?
Yeah.
Tells you who's going to stick with you when times are tough, and who are the guys who are looking for that easy way out, whether it's an injury or, you know what? We're playing the top team 5-0 this week. Yeah, coach, I got to work. Can't really make it. Watch them on film. They're pretty big. They're pretty strong. We used to talk about it in the old days, right?
Yeah.
These 6 guys got the Oakville flu this weekend. You
Yeah.
got to go to Oakville when they're in their middle of their 10-year dynasty. Oh yeah, this guy. They've got the Oakville flu. They don't want to go down there. Hey, I'll take my 25 guys who want to gut it out, rather than having a roster of 40 when a dozen of them are not there for the right reason.
That's when I got my only playing time. Who wants on special teams?
Yeah. back in the old days when they could peel back block and light you up.
Oh man, you know what? I actually said that, and that's why I'm not convinced. I like 3-down football. I love the passing part of it. I love the Canadian part of it. I don't feel it's a JV thing yet. I feel it's a senior varsity because that's that last step before you get to university. You got 2 to 3 years of playing it to get there. At JV, you still have too many kids that are new to football that didn't play Bantam. And the only time I know that I got concussed in football was on special teams. It was on kickoff. It was different then. You're not allowed to do some of the hits that were done before. I got ear holed. I got screws through my helmet. It hurt, right? Somehow miraculously made a tackle after doing a 360. I don't know how it happened, but that's the only time I've ever gotten injured. And when I got hurt there, that's when I started playing kicker because I'm like, I don't want to be part of that anymore. That's going to limit careers right there. So I think that in JV, I still feel that it should be a 4-down because you got so many kids. I got a bunch of kids that have never played football before, right? And those are the kids I want to have on special teams, but I don't at the same time.
It's a tough one. And I know in junior and high school, I believe they play 4-downs.
Yeah,
they're
still 4-down.
You know what? Or maybe maybe you make the AAA teams play 3-down, AA play 4. Maybe there's more because AAA tend to be bigger centers, tend to be more kids, more experienced kids. Maybe they can handle. Maybe AA plays because I remember when we were in the OPFL, we were the version of AA, so we played 4-downs, and the AAA played 3-downs. That's how it was even at the senior varsity level.
Yeah.
So, but it's again, it depends what your what your flavor is too, right? Like as an offensive guy, I like 4-downs. Hey, it just gives me another down. It gives me 4 downs to get 10 yards, right?
Yeah.
As defensive guys, sometimes you get against a team that's a little bigger and can lean on you. It's frustrating not being able to stop anybody when they can just churn out 3 to 4 yards every carry.
Yeah.
And you know what? Going back to that senior varsity pre-COVID, we lost to Beckwith 3 times during the regular season, and we threw the ball for probably close to 400 yards each game. And then we played them in the final, and I think Mason threw the ball 3 times that game. And we just grinded it out with a big offensive line and McColeman and Jonah Tignelli playing fullback, and we just grinded them out. And that's how we beat them. We kept with low score. Like all of our previous games were 42-35, 49-40. 18-13 in the final. So you know what? The 3-down, 4-down now. 3-down. If your quarterback plays not good, it's tough.
Yeah.
Or your running game has to be exceptional.
Yeah.
Right. So it's hard, and I don't know what the right answer is. I think the high school thing does it right because you're constantly getting players that have never played before, right? So never mind trying to it's hard enough to just work on offense, defense, and spend your, when you're telling kids how this is how you put your pants on.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
All that good stuff. And I tip my hat to you, like you guys who coach junior football, and Brett Hamilton at Ferris and stuff. Those guys do a great job because there's so much fundamentally based stuff that you guys have to deal with. Like I said, just getting them dressed and getting them on the field and teaching them positions. I know we still get the odd new kid at the senior level that, okay, well, line up outside the tackle. Well, which guy's the tackle? Sometimes you presume that these guys know things when, and I think that's just, sometimes you get kids that are out playing football because they're out with their buddies. They're not, it used to be, 15, 20 years ago, you'd talk to kids about the games on the weekend. Hey, did you see that Niners game on the weekend? Hey, did you see and 25 kids would be jumping into the conversation with you. And even nowadays, we always ask kids, hey, who watched football on Sunday? And 6 kids put up their hand out of 35.
Yeah. It's those 6 kids that surprise me. You say that you forget sometimes at that level they don't know what a tackle is. It's those kids that surprise me when I say, okay, you're lined up on that guy. He's the tackle. And they look at me, yeah, coach, I know what a tackle is.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Okay.
And honestly, I think Madden football has done wonders for informing kids. Because now, like
sometimes
sometimes
the rules change.
But it's true. With alignments and coverage, and like
positions.
15 years ago, when you used to talk, hey, you're probably going to see cover 3, you're probably going to see cover 4, and they'd be like, well, what does that mean? But now with these kids, they all know base coverages. They all hey, I know that's 3 deep, I know it's 4 deep. Hey, 2-man, or there's going to be blitz or pressure. There's a little bit of they give a little bit of knowledge of structure now, right? So now some of the stuff
this would drive me crazy. I had an argument with a university player this year about cover 3 and cover 4, and it turns out that they were thinking Madden and not accounting for a second safety.
Yeah, well, 11 man versus 12 man. Yeah, that's a whole other issue too, right?
So I was kind of laughing, but I actually had an argument with a referee in Sudbury. This referee, I'm not gonna name his name. Terrible football player, terrible athlete, terrible person.
Here he is.
Okay.
There it is.
Oh well, hey, look, this guy.
Don't say you really think.
This guy, we've been playing all year. I know the rules of football. I know the Canadian Amateur Football Rule Book. This guy wouldn't allow any motion. He gave us flags when our receivers were moving, right? Whether they're moving laterally down the line or slotbacks were cracking, right? We got a flag because he said the rules are they have to stop for 1 second and set before the ball snapped.
Yeah.
So
he's watching too much football on Sunday.
Exactly. And I said, man, you're a ref. You're supposed to know the difference between this. And so we had to change our offense. We had to make sure everybody was stopped on the line of scrimmage before the ball snapped. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, I go by the Canadian Football Amateur Rule Book. I said, can you show me what page that's on? No, I don't have a book on me. I said, well, then you can't tell me. And then you got Mark Mathon on the sideline. You know how angry he gets? He loves arguing rules. Oh, man.
I'll never complain about refs, especially on videotape. But
I love them.
Yeah, the refs are awesome.
Thank you for your...
If there's anybody out there that wants to be a ref, they should look into that because there is a shortage of refs everywhere.
Hey,
yeah,
look,
absolutely. There's not a lineup of people lining up to referee because,
I did it. I refed. I refed while I was in college 3 years.
We need referees in every
in
city.
North Bay, badly.
Yes.
Let's be honest. Like, all joking aside, like, there are guys refereeing right now that refereed me in high school.
Yeah.
Okay? This is like mid to late 80s. Guys are still refereeing. And we can't complain because they're doing the best job that they can.
Absolutely.
And a lot of them are in their 60s.
Yeah.
And they don't move as well as they did before. And so what happens? Sometimes you get blocked out because you're not quite to the position you should be in because you're not quite in the shape you were 40 years ago when you started refereeing, right? Like, it's tough.
Hey, that's where it gets difficult, right? Because you need refs and you need coaches, right? And right now we have a lot of newer coaches surrounding the club, and at that point, you're coaching coaches, trying to help them develop also, right? Because they haven't done a whole lot of coaching, right? So when in the grand scheme of things, we need volunteers everywhere. We need people helping set up the field on Sunday or Saturday and Sundays. We need more coaches. People are willing to learn. And we also need more referees.
Well, that's the struggle with the city,
It's-
besides of North Bay, though, right?
Yeah.
There's a finite number of people who are football knowledgeable. So if a bunch of them go into coaching, that means they're not going to refereeing. And more people seem apt to get involved in coaching rather than officiating because, especially if you have kids involved, right? So those guys that have kids, they want to go, they want to learn, you know. And I really wanted to do something this year, which I wish we could have gotten off the ground, but just the way that this mess of the season has gone so far, and hopefully we can maybe do it next year. Is I'd really like to have or give the opportunity for anybody who's a new coach can come out and shadow at our practices, and you can stand behind the offensive line coach, or you can stand behind our DB coach, or whatever you want to coach quarterbacks or receivers or whatever. Come out and hang out at practice, and you want to get questions, ask them. Just to give them the opportunity, especially guys getting in, because the thing is it's not football is very different than hockey or baseball. Most people that play those sports in their lives, right? It's not their first exposure, and even guys who played a couple of years of high school football, it's really different being a player and a coach. Like, you know what it's like, and especially if you're a head coach or you're overseeing the offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball. Kids are smart these days, and they can smell if you know the answer or don't know the answer.
Oh, yeah.
So when they ask you a question, I mean, you need to be able to give them an answer, right? So, and it's hard because, you know what, like we just talked a little thing about rules and stuff. Like, there is so much that goes into just, one play offensively or defensively, with scheme and positions and assignments and, rules and, like it's hard for guys that, oh, my kid's playing Bantam football this summer. Oh, I'm going to volunteer to coach, but I've never coached before, I've never played before, or I have minimal playing time. It's really difficult spot to put these guys in because
you get thrown in. You get thrown in the pool head first.
Yeah, you're like, here you go, like into the deep end right away.
Yeah.
Start swimming because it's tough. Like,
and learning from the coaches that have been around, that's how I started it. Like I started in 2013, learning from you and Mark and Jay Pichette, and then there was a season I worked with you, and then there was a season I worked with Mick Bills. Like, that's a lot of football knowledge. I never played high school football. In fact, my football career for playing is quite short. I played 4 plays in 1994 and a game and a half 3 years ago. That's it. That's all I've ever played football. But starting and learning from like Mark with his defensive mind, those defensive schemes, and you at linebacker, and then the 2 seasons I spent with you and Mick Bills, plus the guys I learned from at like Murray Mulvihill at Scholar and stuff. Like, that kind of knowledge, you're right. Shadowing coaches with that kind of knowledge sure helps.
And asking questions.
Right? Like,
absolutely. Ask all the questions you can.
There's no such thing as a bad question, right? Like, you have a question about anything. Because, like, I remember, a couple of years ago, we went down to our Ferris staff. We went to Carleton. Dan Webb, our defensive coordinator, is buddies with the defensive coordinator for Carleton. So we went down, and they were gracious enough to let us sit in the meetings, right down on the field, in the huddles at spring practice, and they let us ask questions. Like listen, guys, jump in. Like, we're in the meetings, and you guys go, hey, you're running outside zone, and this is how you're blocking the backside. And guys, they're great. Like, it was. You can always, doesn't matter how long you've coached, you're always learning something, right? Because the game changes, and
that's what makes a great coach. You have to be open to learning.
And
right?
Every year it's a different group of kids. Like you could put on our the longest. I can't say so much about like this team because there's only 3rd-year senior varsity, but if you put on our tape, like, I've been at Ferris since 2001, so I've been there for over 20 years. If you put our offense on every year, it's never the same. It's similar when you've got the same group of kids for a couple of years, but then the next group comes in, and the next group comes in, and the next group comes in. So you know what? It's you're always learning something. We're more pass heavy this year, so I got to step up my game and my protections or my route combinations, or we're a little more run heavy this year, but we're a little bigger and slower. We have a little more power. Oh yeah, we got some fast guys this year. Maybe we're going to run a little more spread. Maybe run some outside, more jet, more So you're always learning. Like, there's never as a football coach, there's never the I hit my limit of knowledge. That's all I need. I don't need to learn another thing. I'm done. I'm good.
You got to play to your players' strengths, and
Personnel
somehow
dictates your
try and
books.
keep everything looking the same as much as possible
Absolutely.
on offense and on defense also,
Yeah.
right? So if you can show one thing on film that's versatile, you're going to be like, what's the key? Where's the key? Like you watch film, I watch a lot of film. I'm sure you guys have watched it too, but you see somebody go in motion or you see somebody move a certain way, it's like there's the key, right?
Yeah.
If you can get your offense to, like you said, you got to change it up based on your players' strengths and weaknesses, right? Your offense will always look different, but if you can make it different but always look the same, right? So, and I'm not saying for all those years, just for that particular year.
For a season.
If you make it
whatever.
always every play look the same, if you got 20 plays and they all look the same, they all start the same way, you're going to win football games because that's what kills defenses is guessing. And if I can't look at your tape and find a key, I'm screwed because I'm guessing the whole game. And you know what? Mental exhaustion's twice as bad as physical
That
exhaustion.
last group of really football dedicated kids we had with Mason and Ryan
Yeah.
Coleman and Jacob Rouzo and Turnsack and Piper, that group of kids that were like super diehard, all in 100%. Like we were super high tempo, same formation never changed.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we were fast, and our playbook wasn't as big as it had been in years past, but we just did everything really fast and it looked the same for the first 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Always. And it was like bang, 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 bang. It was the first year I've ever seen us have an opposing player standing on the field puking because our tempo was so high. So,
Yeah.
you know what? Like it's like you said, if it all looks the same for the first couple of seconds,
You can't do
guys
it.
have to go through their read progression, and if they try to cheat it, that's when they get caught, right? So
Yeah, and like I said, mental exhaustion's way worse than physical exhaustion.
Yeah.
And you know what? A lot of the kids don't even know how to prepare for that.
No.
And the only way you prepare for mental exhaustion is in the film, watching everything, and
then
keep looking.
if you can combine that with get them physically tired,
Yeah.
as well as, and then because you know what, your mind plays when you are sucking wind, your mind starts to play tricks on you.
Oh, big time.
The first thing it's telling you is to stop and go sit down and go lie down somewhere. So the first thing it wants you to do is quit,
Mhm.
right? And they always talk about that with marathon runners, these super distance runners, because the biggest hurdle they have to do in their training is get over your mind telling your body to quit. You have to push through that mindset of your body can go on a lot longer, but your brain's doing its job to, I need to protect the body. I need to protect your vital organs. I need to shut all this other stuff down because you're getting so exhausted. You're getting dehydrated. You're getting, your muscles are getting so tired. So if you can push through that mental side, which a lot of times doesn't happen, right? So now all of a sudden, now I'm tired. And if I haven't exhausted myself mentally watching film, now I'm going to get lazy. So now I might not take that read step on defense because I'm too tired to take it. I'm just going to start backing out because I think it might be a pass, or I'm not going to get to my zone drop, or, well, it looks like a run. I'm not going to cover my guy this way because, it looks like it's going to be a run, and then you get sucked in on my action.
You can see that on film too, right?
Oh,
I know you've
absolutely.
seen it. You're like, this kid. Why? Why is he doing that? Right? I've been that person. That's when like I said before, when I played a game for the men's this year, it's like I'm not. It's not close.
There's a
This part has to
physical
catch up to.
expectation that you need. Like you need to be in a certain amount of shape to play, so that the mental side can function. Because if you're out there and 3 plays later you're exhausted, your brain's not going to work at the capacity that needs to. Right? Like you're not going to be. You're not going to have the mental side.
Yeah, and it doesn't come down to like it's not just the strength part. It's a lot of the conditioning part because it's been difficult for even the football players to even train for the last 2 years, right? They're okay. You guys can go to the weight room. You guys can't. Okay, now you guys can go. You guys can't. It's hard because when you get to the season, you're not supposed to work out in season. You're supposed to sustain your ability in season, right? You're not supposed to get PBs in season. That's how you get hurt, right? And a lot of them weren't even able to sustain it. It just wasn't available, right? So a lot of that stuff's going to change. And we have that indoor facility with Canadore. I think that's great because there's so many more field sports played than there are ice sports. And I think it's great. We'll be dealing with the city next week, and we'll see everybody again. But ice pads are great, but the indoor dome stuff, soccer, hockey, football, hockey in the summer, but football, tennis, baseball. There's a lot of sports that kids play that can't afford to play hockey. And it's a necessity. It's not something that we want. It's something that's needed. And I'll tell you why. And I hope that the city guys that are going to be here see this. The reason why it's a requirement is because it keeps kids from getting caught up with the BS out there. They're not in parking lots trying to break into cars. They're not spray painting buildings. They're there, and you're keeping them involved in something. They stay there. And before the podcast, we were talking about the numbers in Bantam versus JV versus senior, right? In order to sustain those numbers, you got to keep them involved, right? That's what other centers are doing. From what I'm hearing and experiencing, that's what other centers are doing, right? And if you keep them involved, they don't go away and find something else to do. The reason that we have the numbers we have is because they haven't been involved for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? So you have a group that can grind it out because they want to be there, right? You guys have a group of players where you can cut a knife through the center and say, they're learning, they're into it, and then there's going to always be a couple that aren't, right? And we may not see them at the JV. Maybe we will. I hope we do. But the turnover rate's higher, obviously, from Bantam to JV. And we try to carry them from JV so you have sustained numbers at senior varsity.
They fall off at that Bantam when they hit the high school, and then they play the high school junior season. And then once that season's over at the end of October, beginning of November, they have 8 months, 7-8 months of nothing. So they find other things to do. And then when summer comes around, those other things are still keeping them busy through the summer. So then they're like, well, do I keep doing this or do I go back to football for the next 4 or 5 months? So that you're right. The field, having that field there and being able to use it and keep them involved through the whole winter, it just makes it way easier to keep those kids. And you just said that there's way more field sports in North Bay. I don't understand. And again, you can ask the city. If we know that and all these people on the fields know that, how is it the city builds an arena solely based for hockey? Right?
Question for later.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay.
I'm not against hockey. They need hockey
I'm not
rinks.
against hockey either. I think kids should play every possible sport they can play. I will never tell a football kid, don't play hockey, don't play baseball. Play everything. Every sport uses different muscles. It gives you different abilities. It allows you to be more prepared for the next sport.
Hey, we're gonna talk about it next week, but based on area, right? What they have in their infrastructure currently, and what they're trying to lean towards, is what we're gonna discuss next week. That doesn't make any sense, and I know you know that because it's just like the league we're dealing with, right?
Listen, I've been down this road. Like
2 minus 3 is a negative.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, like we're losing. We're going to be down a nice pad in a handful of years when, like, Pete Belanger with all the mold problem stuff, that's going to shut down. West Ferris, the building's falling apart. That's going to eventually shut down. So now we're going to be from 4 counting the gardens to 3 counting the gardens, right? Or 3 to 2, just dealing with 3 buildings. But I mean, listen, my daughter's in first year university this year, so her hockey career ended last year. It kind of got disrupted by COVID the last year and a bit. But I mean, my personal opinion, and I think this is where they kind of dropped the ball on almost a little bit, and it looks like they're heading down the same path again. They're not talking to local people who have coached and traveled and seen all the other facilities in the province over and over and over for years, and say, this is what works, this is what doesn't work, this is what the teams like, this is what the teams don't like. So kind of like Omishal, right? Like, there's some obvious flaws to the layout with the sun and such. They built 3 baseball diamonds down there that are not built to a size.
They're bigger than the Skydo.
Well, but they're not built to a size that's appropriate for any sport. So they're symmetrical, which is appropriate for slow pitch, but they're like 400 feet, which slow pitch is anywhere from 275 to 300. They're big like baseball fields, but baseball fields are shallow down the lines, usually about 260, 265, 270, building to 400 in center field. It's not a symmetrical field. That's not the way baseball is designed. So the 3 fields they have are not conducive to any actual sport. They're like generic cookie cutter fields that somebody thought would be a great idea.
That's where it changes, Jay.
Right.
Is they don't need to go down the consultation path again.
No.
They need to have a focus group.
Don't even get me started on
it's a focus group.
The 2 fields, the football field and the soccer field, that are built beside each other, that have alternating light standards that are like 20 feet from each other, 30 feet from each other. Absolutely ridiculous. The fact that those 2 fields weren't built side by side with one set of light standards in the middle with lights on both sides that eventually, you don't have to do it stage 1, but phase 2, phase 3 down the road should have been grandstand bleachers, and then there's your underneath where you put your change rooms and your concession and everything else. You don't have to do it all at once, but you have to think far enough ahead to say, so why am I paying for extra light standards on you've got to pay for all the ones that are on the outside of the field. I get it. But in the middle, they should be cut in half. So that's cost savings. If they want to talk about cost savings, there's cost savings where if you put it down the middle, just like other places have. I don't understand. So now we're going to the hockey situation. Okay? So my daughter's last 4 years of hockey, we played in the Lower Lakes Female Hockey League. Our home rink was York. 5-pad facility. One rink in the middle with bowl seating all the way around it. The other 4 rinks are they're practice rinks basically. There's a couple of little tiny bleachers at one end, but on the side, the benches on the one side in the dressing rooms, and on the other side, it's like right up against the outer wall. There's no need for these fancy
wings.
No, like you want to put something up top, like So York has 5 pads. There's a restaurant up top that has viewing for all 5 rinks because they're all like, right? Hey, and you want to put all the other stuff in. You want to put physiotherapists. You want to put a track for people to walk on. You want to put, other places have like every pool and all those things under one roof. You have to make it a multi-use facility so that you can accommodate as many people as possible. Yes, do we need hockey? Like as a parent who had a daughter play hockey, do we need a new ice rink? Nothing. Yes. Do we need more pads? Yes. But this building 2 pads, like building 4 pads, doesn't cost twice as much as 2 pads, right? It's the machinery that you have to run 2 pads can run up to probably 4 or 5 sheets of ice.
That's the trick. It's got to be economically efficient.
So why are we like all this stuff about aesthetics and making it look all fancy stuff? That's great.
That's only great for the local politicians that are involved in
it. In 2013, when Canada started talking about that field, they contacted all the user groups in the city. They contacted soccer, football, baseball, all of them, and asked what we would like to see in it. I'm not suggesting that the city go through that entire process, but had they done that, they would have seen that that facility is only going to suit the needs of one sport.
No, it's not going to suit the needs of anybody because
that would be a temporary fix for that one sport.
It's a regression.
Other 2 buildings are done. When the other 2 buildings are finally gone, then they're back in the same position, looking at either extending or building again.
Like I back then it was bad enough, but I can't imagine right now with gas prices. Like we practiced in Trail Creek, South River, Sunridge. We never practiced. There was no ice here to practice locally. Like so, yeah, we need the facility, but you have to be smart about it in that if you want to host provincials, if you want to host these things that are going to bring money back into the city, so like the ringette or hockey, whatever uses the ice, right, or whatever else can use the facility, you want to host these things, that's great. That'll bring money back in. But you better, building a 2-pad facility doesn't help us host anything. All right, the Girls Association Hockey Tournament has gone down the toilet because nobody wants to drive from the south up here and play at West Ferris, at P. Flangio, or God forbid, I remember one year, team drive to North Bay, coach checks in, get your information package. Their first game's in Trail Creek, they got to turn around and drive back after 35 minutes to get back to Trail Creek to play a hockey game. Like come on, like what's going on here? Like so that was the biggest thing that frustrated me when I heard about this whole thing from the get-go was, again, all these plans are drawn up and made. And all the guys that I talk to that I know that have coached hockey in North Bay forever and have been coaches that coach either AAA boys or AA girls, which are the highest 2 levels of hockey, and have traveled all over the province, nobody's been talked to about anything. So, again...
That's what I said.
Almost was the same thing.
No.
Almost was the same thing, and this is going to be the same thing.
I just don't want this to be some politician's vanity project.
Well, that's exactly.
And not serve the community.
Let's not make any mistake. There's an election coming up in the fall. This thing should not have been announced or pushed through before this election.
We're paying $500,000 for consultation. That's not required. You need a focus group from the user groups, right? Which has to include obviously baseball, softball, soccer, hockey, right? Ringette, figure skating. Anybody who's using the pads or the change rooms. They have to be involved. You have to have a discussion. Because when you put something on paper, the taxpayers see it, you're not getting back in office, right? So the people that are like, pro spending money and not thinking about it, I don't have a problem saying some of the names out there, and I like them, but you can't go to the public, like the Vrabroches did, and pat yourself on the back and talk about how awesome this is, right? Same with Al, who I'm a little bit disappointed in because I know he was a member of the club, making these ludicrous decisions based on aesthetics, right? You can't say an architect is a professional that designed this, and this is the way it's going to be carbon net zero. That's like calling an esthetician a surgeon. That's ridiculous, right? You don't have to have those conversations. Talk to an engineer. I don't know what the price is going to be to make something that's a triangle carbon net zero, but a rectangle is much easier, right? It's not hard to look. We don't have to look very far. We have our Northern Ontario neighbors, Sault Ste. Marie, getting 4 pads for $22 million.
Yeah,
that's $30 million cheaper.
Well, it's a matter of economics for the community. You got to think about the people who live here, your tax base, and you don't want to police them just for a vanity project that looks good on paper and is aesthetically pleasing when you pass by it. It's got to be something that they're going to use.
Functionality is more important than aesthetics, right? Like
function over
four pads for $22 million, and the price tag on this one's at $50. And this was the same price tag that it was at before, pre-COVID. So before all the increase in inflation,
we're putting up an additional $500,000 to find out what the real price may be.
Wow.
We got to reconsult. So, anyways, guys, that's just a teaser for next week.
We'll go off. That's a primer. That's some tape for the politicians to watch.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
So, Gord, make sure you write everything down that you heard. There's a lot of questions. You'll be getting them tonight. Anyways, that's the end of our podcast. We're at the hour mark, and I'll see you guys next week, and we'll continue this discussion that we ended on. And good luck at practices, and I hope to see all you guys having a great game this weekend, and let's put some W's up. All right?
All right.
Take care.
All right, guys, see you at the field.
Have a good one.